What's going on, guys? It's Fantasy Stock Exchange here, bringing you yet another installment of our prospect battle series we have over here at the Fantasy Stock Exchange YouTube channel. If you guys haven't already seen it, the first installment was actually based on the top two consensus running backs in the class, and Najee Harris of Alabama and Travis Etienne of Clemson. So once you watch this, if you haven't already seen that, make sure you go click it. It'll be linked down in the description for you guys. But today, we got the top two consensus receivers in the draft going head to head. And that is going to be none other than Devonta Smith out of Alabama and Jamar Chase out of wide receiver out of LSU. Sorry.
It's wide receiver it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same stuff, you know. But before we do that, if you want any more info on these guys and much other guys we're going to have on the draft guide, take it away. You'll see this right now. More information on the draft guide.
Just a reminder, guys, for a chance to be entered into a listener dynasty league with myself and Danny, you can pre-order our draft guide now at thefantasystockexchange.com. Read Jaylen, Waddle, Travis Etienne totally for free. Enter your email to get $5 off the $30 purchase price.
Watch the video on the homepage to explore all the great benefits that will be in the guide once it drops March 1st. And we're back to the video.
Okay, so as you've already seen that, you can pretty tell we're hyped up about getting that release for you guys. But today, we're going to give you a little preview of that with these two receivers. So starting off with Devonta Smith, a four-star recruit in the 2017 high school class, the number 9 receiver for Alabama. Let's just say that four-star recruit worked out pretty well for Alabama, to say the least. And for Jamar Chase, again, another four-star recruit, only this time he was the number 15 receiver in the 2018 class. So you got a little draft class, recruiting class separation right there. But yeah, in terms of analytical profile, you can kind of take it away with this one, Corey.
Yeah, and before I get into that real quick too, these are probably two of the more decorated receivers that we're going to see come into the league when you consider the fact that Devonta Smith won the Heisman Trophy this past year and Jamar Chase won the Biletnikoff last year. Probably Devonta Smith probably won the Biletnikoff this year. I don't even know. He probably did.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about analytical profiles, and we'll go into these a little bit more in depth with receivers than we did with running backs, mainly because a lot of people tend to argue wide receivers' analytical profiles matter more than running backs. So the breakout age, the big one that everyone wants to talk about. Oh, did this guy break out young? Well, for Jamar Chase, he did. He broke out quite young. He was 19 and a half when he broke out, which is more than adequate breakout age for the analytics heads on Twitter. Devonta Smith, on the other hand, wasn't as young when he broke out, but I mean, we've talked about it on numerous occasions. When you play for the Alabama Crimson Tide in a wide receiver core with Calvin Ridley when he his freshman year, and then Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, and Jaylen Waddle also in that core for the rest of his college career, it's going to be pretty tough to get on the field easily and command a lot of target volume.
100%. I mean, if you're talking about the other analytics, you guys should have already seen them on the screen. If not, they will be on your screen currently. For Devonta Smith, I mean, his college dominator, 51.3%, 96th percentile. Can't get much better than that. Jamar Chase only at the 62nd percentile at 33.4%. We'll take that with a grain of salt because let's be honest, we all know how historic that 2019 LSU offense was. So in terms of overall analytical profile, the biggest advantage that Chase has here is that he did it at a younger age, which is going to be
size too. So we'll talk about that real quick too. Another big concern with Devonta Smith is the fact that he's only 175 pounds, and we'll have to see when he weighs in at the Senior Bowl, or not the Senior Bowl. Did he weigh in at the Senior Bowl or no?
No. He wasn't going to give the scouts the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, for sure. So he's probably, maybe when it comes to Alabama's pro day, he's probably just going to weigh in and like drink a bunch of water before the weigh-in and try and get above 180 or something like that, because there really hasn't been too many receivers of his size profile, because he is rather tall for a wide receiver. He's 6'1", but he's only 175 pounds. So he's a pretty lanky dude. And a lot of people are concerned that he might not hold up at the next level or whatever. Obviously, Jamar Chase doesn't have that concern. At 6 foot and 208 pounds, he's really built like almost like a running back. So he's definitely the coast is clear on him. And I think he definitely wins the analytics battle.
Yeah, no, for sure. This was going to be the 1-0 for Jamar Chase here. Anybody on Twitter or playing Dynasty football already has known about Jamar Chase's analytical profile for a while now, and it's just going to take the cake here. So let's get on to the actual, if you will, tangible football traits, the ones that we typically value more as, you know, like more film-centric type Dynasty players. So we're going to go into the second one, and that's actually going to be separation or your release. Can you get off the line real quick, real adequately, and can you create separation? Well, let me tell you, Devonta Smith is the best at creating separation in this class. This guy's just, again, we're going to mention this throughout this video when we're talking about Devonta Smith, such a fluid mover. I mean, this guy, he's the most polished separator in the class and has a wide release package at the line of scrimmage. You can't press this guy because, let's be honest, he's going to juke you out of your fucking socks and get free without real any
It's hard
pressure.
to get your hands on him. His feet are too good.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the way this guy moves, he's such a fluid athlete. People are going to talk about, okay, well, he's only 175 pounds. He shouldn't move like that. Well, let me tell you, he does move like that. And we got to reward him for moving like that because not too many people can operate as smooth as him. I mean, we're talking about a guy who, in terms of movement skills, reminds me of a prime Marvin Harrison. And if you guys have ever watched Marvin Harrison play football, he was smooth as butter. So anyways, you can take it away with Ja'Marr Chase here.
Yeah, Ja'Marr Chase. So he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not even Devonta Smith. And just a precursor, Devonta Smith is going to win this category, but Ja'Marr Chase knows how to get open. He does it in kind of a different way. He uses his big frame and he's physical at the top of his routes. I still think he can improve in this area very easily, in my opinion, because once again, we're going to talk about age, but Ja'Marr Chase was only 19 years old on the film that everyone is watching of Ja'Marr Chase because it was 2019 season. I think it would have really benefited him to come back for his junior year and improve in this area, maybe become a little bit more physical and easier separator, maybe get a little bit more football intelligence and experience as well. But I still think what Ja'Marr Chase does is effective to create separation at the top of his routes. And I still think he does it very adequately. That's going to translate to the NFL. In terms of yards per route run, this is a pretty sticky stat when it comes to one, receiver success, and two, how open are they getting, obviously, because you're able to pick up a lot of yardage on all the routes that you're running if you are getting open consistently. And Devonta Smith is one of the better ones in this class. I believe he ranks third in this class with a 4.39 yards per route run to Ja'Marr Chase's 3.52, which is still a good number. But yeah, Devonta Smith just had an otherworldly yards per route run this year, especially for the amount of volume that he saw. That is just a completely ludicrous number.
100%. So we're going to give the advantage here to Devonta Smith, evening that score at 1-1 after we talked about the analytical profile for the first point. Let's get on to the third. And this one, hands. Devonta Smith's got freaking mitts for hands. I mean, we're going to mention the actual metrics soon enough, but let's just talk about a film and context standpoint. Anything in his radius, he was bringing in. Anything even remotely close to him, he was bringing in. And let me tell you, I mean, we're going to talk about verticality later, which Chase is going to win. Little spoiler. But this guy, for his frame, would go up and get it. And then I'm talking about, like, in terms of consistency, in terms of reliability, Devonta Smith is the most reliable receiver in this class, in my opinion. Anything in his way is going to come down with it. Yeah, I know I kind of repeated a bunch of things, but it's not much else to say.
If you want to talk about body control too, I think Devonta Smith's body control is tremendous at the catch point. He's able to like contort himself and get to the sideline as well. Like he's just really good in contested catch situations for someone his size. And it's not even like, oh, he's good for his size. So like, what does that actually mean? It means like he'll win at the next level, even though he is smaller. 100%. Ja'Marr Chase, though, I think in terms of contested catch situations is the best in this class. And especially when you consider ball tracking and downfield ability, he has the my ball mentality. Like he's coming down with it. If it's downfield, he had a couple concentration drops, which is why we'll get into it right now. Their drop percentage is a little bit better for Devonta Smith. He had 2.07 drop percentage on 117 receptions, which is just wild. And a 4.13 drop percentage for Ja'Marr Chase on, I believe it was 84 receptions, 2019. So
for sure.
I mean, Devonta Smith definitely wins this area, but I don't think Ja'Marr Chase has bad hands by any means.
For sure. And again, we mentioned their catch percentage. Devonta Smith at 80.7 versus Ja'Marr Chase at 69.4. Again, albeit different in terms of their usage in their offense, but still one to monitor. So we're going to give the edge of hands to Devonta Smith. And this is listed 5, but we're going to just get it right into it because we kind of mentioned his tracking and downfield ability. But we're going to talk about Ja'Marr Chase and why he takes this advantage here. So we already mentioned Ja'Marr Chase is the most physical outside receiver in this class. Anything in the air, any 50-50 ball, let's just call it an 80-20 because he's going to come out with it about 80% of the time.
Yep.
I mean, in terms of the actual numbers, while Devonta Smith was impressive in his downfield production, 589 yards and 8 touchdowns, Ja'Marr Chase was just otherworldly. I mean, 860 yards and 14 touchdowns of downfield production as a
20-plus yards.
Like that's insanity. It's insanity. So, I mean, overall, we mentioned the overall hands of Devonta Smith being better, but the downfield ability, like Jamar Chase is taking the cake, and it's not particularly close here.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Jamar Chase, a lot of the red flags surrounding Jamar Chase are the fact that he had Joe Burrow throwing him the ball, right? Well, Mac Jones was a very adequate deep passer. He had great ball placement as well, but like some of the catches Jamar Chase made downfield, yes, it was great ball placement by Joe Burrow, but it was also a big part to do with Jamar Chase's ability to track deep balls and come down with them against some absolutely first-round caliber cornerbacks too.
AJ Terrell in the Natty.
He literally baptized AJ Terrell in the Natty. It wasn't even a question. And AJ Terrell actually had a pretty solid rookie year. So that is an NFL caliber corner. And when you talk about their usage, you mentioned the fact that Devonta Smith had a higher catch percentage, and that's to be expected. Devonta Smith ran 36.2% of his snaps out of the slot, which is, I mean, you're a part-time slot receiver. You're not like a total slot guy. And then compared to Jamar Chase's 17.0%, I think that percentage probably would have went up this year, given the fact that Justin Jefferson was no longer there, but Jamar Chase obviously opted out of the season. But when you talk about deep target percentage, 29.8% of Jamar Chase's total targets were considered deep targets, so 20 plus yards downfield, and then 19.3% deep targets. So all in all, both of these guys can win down the field, but Jamar Chase just does it to an even greater extent than I would say someone like Devonta Smith does.
For sure. So again, we're going to give the advantage here to Jamar Chase. And as always, if you're tracking at home, guess what? That evens it up at 2-2 in our scorecards right now for decision. Anyways, let's get into the yak ability of these guys. Both very good yak receivers, basically identical in terms of their yards after catch per reception, as we'll get into. But the thing that separates Chase and gives him this category is his avoided tackles. Can he make guys miss? Can he just bounce guys off of them? The physicality definitely comes into play here. And we can talk about the metrics. Their yards after the catch per reception, exactly similar at 8.1. The difference being Jamar Chase's avoided tackle percentage was almost 20% higher than Devonta Smith. He was coming at 26.19%. Devonta Smith at 8.55. So, I mean, if you're talking about it, this guy broke 22 tackles in 84 receptions. Like it's remarkable when you think
literally
about
a quarter, like over a quarter of his receptions, he broke a tackle on.
I mean, it's just absolutely freakish. And don't get me wrong. I mean, 10 broken tackles for Devonta Smith is impressive. But when you're comparing that 10 on 117 versus 22 on 84, it's really no debate here for guys that have the exact same similar yards after catch per reception. So overall, Jamar Chase is going to win this category and take his lead to 3-2. So anything else you want to add?
Another thing I want to say from a film perspective too, you can kind of, when I saw the 8.1 per reception, like the same number, I was like, that number's lying a little bit because like you said, the avoided tackle percentage is just way higher. The fact that Devonta Smith had so many deep plays too, where he was just like 40 yards open downfield, running for 30 yards after the catch and taking it in for a wide open touchdown, padded his numbers a little bit. Jamar Chase has that like Chris Godwin, AJ Brown potential, given the size that he has and the physicality that he flashes on film. He has that ability to, there's a play against Florida that if you read our article in the draft guide of Jamar Chase, and it'll probably be playing right now, there's a play against Florida where there's like 3 guys trying to tackle him. And he literally like just shakes all 3 of them off and continues to pedal forward and chug forward and get a first down out of it. So that's just kind of the, like I mentioned, AJ Brown, Chris Godwin type of receiver is the type of receiver that you want to kind of envision when you're watching Jamar Chase, because that is definitely how I think he should be used at the next level.
A little bit of Dez to him as well when I watched him. I mean, just really physical monsters,
especially for a guy that, again, was 19 years old on his film. If he added 10 more pounds to his frame, which I do think he is capable of doing, I think his frame can handle it. He could be one of those just absolute physical yak monsters at the next level.
100%. So advantage Jamar Chase here. So as always, 3-2 Jamar Chase on these scorecards. Let's get into the category that we really could not decide on. I mean, from a raw numbers perspective, you would say that it would lean Smith, but from a size adjusted perspective, as we'll get into, you would lean Jamar Chase. So let me just make the case for Smith, the one that I personally think is, and then Corey's going to rebuttal with why he believes it's Chase. So overall, athleticism and speed. For me, the reason why I think Devonta Smith gets the edge here is he's just so much more fluid and he's such a more agile mover. Albeit, Corey's going to talk about the size adjustment as to why it should be taken into consideration. But I mean, overall, you're talking about a guy who across the board should run and test better. I understand the argument for Ja'Marr Chase, but really I just can't bet against Devonta Smith's pure movement skills. I mean, the way this guy goes and moves in open space is just magical to watch, which you should expect from an 175-pounder. But regardless, you can make the case for Chase here as well.
Yeah, I think a part of athleticism too is strength. And I think it's really not even close, obviously, right? No. Ja'Marr Chase plays with he plays so physical. He had a couple like instances against Auburn where he was getting out physicaled, but I think at the next level, he is just going to continue to get tougher and tougher to move. And when you combine the fact that I think he does have adequate speed, I think like people maybe underrate how good of an athlete he actually is. I think he is a great athlete. I think he's going to test similar to a guy like Chris Godwin, who I talked about already. Where he runs like a mid 4.4, has pretty solid agility skills, and then his strength really shows up on tape. And then you're running a 4.4 down the field. If Devonta Smith runs faster, he runs faster. But if you're hand fighting down the field with Ja'Marr Chase on a 4.4 versus when you're hand fighting with Devonta Smith on a 4.4, it's a different feel for a cornerback. So I think that's where I kind of lean Ja'Marr Chase. I think both guys are going to be pretty solid athletes. Neither guy is like athleticism is their calling card. They're not Jaylen Waddle or anything, but no. I do think both these guys are very, very adequate athletes for the NFL.
100%. So unfortunately for those at home waiting for a decision here, we actually went with the tie. I know, boohoo, boring, whatever. Let's get into the seventh trait, which we'll see if Devonta Smith can even out the scorecards, because guess what? It's still 3-2 for Ja'Marr Chase. But when you hear what the category is, you already know it's going to be a tie. And that's going to be intangibles, toughness, and IQ. This is Devonta Smith, and I'm going to tell you why. Devonta Smith is arguably the smartest overall football player in this draft, and possibly, in my opinion, from a nuance and savvy standpoint, of the last few draft classes, really. I mean, when I'm watching this guy at his position, his IQ is just so off the chart. I think he can slide in right away, day one, and be a team's number one most productive receiver on the team, because he already understands from a schematic, from a football standpoint, from a smarts awareness standpoint, how to be an NFL, how to be a professional receiver. I mean, he is just so polished. I'm going to say savvy again, because that's really the only word to describe Devonta Smith. And although you're going to mention that Ja'Marr Chase is tougher, he plays tough for his size.
Smith, he definitely does. I saw him block a linebacker against Mississippi State one-on-one. Like he's a tough dude, but
yeah,
you can be tough and also not make impact with your physicality. Like you are a tough player, you're a scrappy player, but when Ja'Marr Chase blocks you, it's going to hurt more.
Yeah, 100%. Like I understand that Devonta Smith is not a snowplow in the open field. You know, if you're Canadian, you get that reference, or anywhere cold, you get that reference.
If you're in Texas, you get that reference too.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. But at least he tries. So you can take away the case of Ja'Marr Chase here, and why, again, intangibles, we're referencing toughness and IQ. We can't really make an argument for Chase with the IQ part, but from the toughness standpoint, why do you think that Ja'Marr Chase has at least a point of reference here in terms of ultimately taking this category?
Yeah, this category too, I was talking about this before we started. It's almost indeterminable for me, because even though I think Ja'Marr Chase would lose this category in terms of the IQ perspective, when we talk about Devonta Smith versus anybody in this class, and I'm including other positions as well, because that's just how smart of a player Devonta Smith is. We didn't really get to see Chase develop in this area because he was more of a raw athlete, kind of with a great quarterback and another great receiver across from him in 2019. If he would have came back for his junior season, we could have seen a more polished player from this kind of IQ perspective in the run game and some of the ability to beat press moves and stuff like that. I think he just kind of was short. Like this was the area that would have benefited him coming back for another year. But I think he has a big time advantage in physicality just because of his size and because of the way he plays. And I think he can actually even grow more in this area, as I mentioned, if he adds weight and becomes more of the Chris Godwin, AJ Brown type of body. I think he has a natural feel for the position, though. I do think he's less advanced and less experienced than Devonta Smith, but that's to be expected given the fact that Devonta Smith has been a starter in the NCAA and the SEC for multiple years now. And just in general, he's an older player, so he's more experienced. 100%.
So, I mean, overall, like Ja'Marr Chase, we could have seen the progression this year. Obviously, again, he opted out. As you mentioned, I just think even with a full year extra of college football experience.
He probably wouldn't have hit Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith's IQ is just so out of this world that it's going to take the advantage here. So again, if you're counting the scorecards 3-3 right now between these guys, I'm sorry. It's going to end up like the running backs video. We're going to have a tie here. I know. Sucks. I get it. But let's be honest here. What we gathered from this today is if you're in the mid first round of your rookie drafts, after those top 4 quarterbacks and top 2 running backs are off the board, these guys are every bit deserving of that recognition in that 107, 108.
If you don't need a quarterback at 104 or whatever, I wouldn't be totally opposed to taking one of these guys at 104 instead of trying to trade that pick away for someone who wants to come get Wilson or Fields or Lance. But yeah, I think these 2 guys are bona fide first round caliber receivers.
100%. And both, quite frankly, should be getting that desired top 10 draft capital, as we always cite. Let's just say hypothetically, Jamar Chase with the Eagles, Devonta
I think
Smith
that is
with the Dolphins.
literally a lock to happen. I actually will bet money right now against anyone that wants me to bet money. You can comment down below how much you'd bet against me. I legitimately think that Jamar Chase is going to be a Philadelphia Eagle. Like, I just don't see a way why they wouldn't pick him at 6.
The only possible scenario I can see as to why they would not is if they traded Carson Wentz and just fell in love with one of those 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But other than that,
that's true. I saw a stat actually that said like Jalen Hurts in terms of like yards per attempt or some kind of stat like that. He was in like Blaine Gabbert territory. Like it wasn't like very good.
to a category.
Yeah, to a category. Yeah, pretty much.
God.
So yeah, these dudes are both bona fide like number 1 receiver caliber prospects. And I think
100%.
Wherever they go in the draft, they're going to have an opportunity to prove that at the next level. And I think both of these guys from a fantasy perspective in different ways have top 5 fantasy potential. I think the way that Devonta Smith gets there is being that separator type that we saw from Calvin Ridley this past year, where he was like a top 5 fantasy receiver. And Jamar Chase gets it in the way that we saw from Chris Godwin a couple of years ago, where he's breaking a lot of tackles, getting a lot of big plays after the catch and stuff like that. So I think both of these guys definitely do have that potential. Just based on kind of where they end up landing. And I think that is going to be, as we mentioned for the running backs, a big determining factor on where I rank these guys post-draft is where they land.
100%. The landing spot is the key here. For example, if Devonta Smith lands in Miami and he can be that number 1 right away, and he already has that rapport with Tua, I'm going to have a hard time not ranking him at 1 because quite frankly, that is such a good fit for him. And as you mentioned, Jamar Chase at the Eagles, I mean, that is a bona fide fit in itself. I mean, we mentioned Jalen Hurts needs weapons. I
think that's a pretty neutral fit. If those 2 things happened, I think I would leave it the way I have it with Chase at 1 and Smith at 2. But if Chase somehow like fell to like a lower position and went to a better situation, then maybe I would put him ahead or something like, or the same case for Smith.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like if Chase, like for example, I mentioned like we like to fit at the Eagles, but say he goes to the other NFC East team and lands at 11 with the Giants. Although I like that situation, give me Miami all day in that spot. So yeah, ultimately here, Corey currently has it as Chase 1, Smith 2. I currently have it as Smith 1, and I currently have Chase 3, but I'm going to have to rewatch him a little bit because I do think I actually
think I would prefer Chase on the Giants than on the Eagles. I'm not even kidding.
Really,
I actually think I would actually prefer that because at least with the Giants, I know that you have Saquon to take away attention. Daniel Jones to me has shown more than the Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts situation right now. It just seems like a huge mess that I don't want a part of. Plus, I know there's no other first round receiver on the Giants. They have Jalen Reagor still, who could develop into maybe like a 1B type, which could take away from Chase. I think if Chase goes to the Giants, he's the number 1 receiver. Like it's not.
That's fair. Yeah. Regardless though, these guys, although I don't think much is going to change with the landing spots because both should get extremely good draft capital and extremely good landing spots based off the teams inside draft capital. This is neck and neck. You go with your preference in your draft. If you like Chase better, go with Chase. If you like Smith better, go with Smith. But regardless, both are going to be able to return you some solid value in those mid-first rounds of your rookie drafts. Now, given the relative value around the fantasy football community, you could probably get Smith cheaper than Chase because
I guarantee you will.
Chase is being picked around by most people, the 103, 104 type area, while Smith
if Chase is not people's wide receiver 1, he's their wide receiver 2. There's people that are low enough on Smith that he's like their wide receiver 4 or 5.
6. So, I've seen like Fusu has him at like 7. Like what are you doing, bud?
Yeah, literally. So there is definitely some value to be had with Devonta Smith. Maybe if you guys, if you have no preference over these 2 guys, you think they're both really good. Maybe you trade down in a situation and take whoever's cheaper and potentially pick up an asset along the way.
Theoretically, if you're at the 103, 104 and somebody else in your league really wants Chase, you could probably move down to the 108 and probably pick up, I don't know, an early second this year.
Yeah, there's going to be
still
people
get
that'll
Smith.
pick Javonte Williams over Devonta Smith too.
Yeah, Javonte Williams,
Maybe
some
even
people,
Kyle Pitts.
Rondale Moore, people are going to take him.
Yeah, can do
Ugh.
that.
But
Anyways, so long-winded outro here, but if you guys enjoyed that, as we mentioned, check out the draft guide. Link is in the description. You can watch the video on the homepage for more information on that. Read the top 2 articles, the 2 articles that are on there for free, just to gauge how much value you guys can be expecting to get in that draft guide. The post-launch or whatever will be March 1st. There will be a lot of information up there. As I mentioned, watch the video to see all that kind of stuff. And check out the Discord. We're heading into Dynasty startup season. We're heading into rookie draft season. So there's a lot of healthy discussion in there about what you guys should be trading things away for, and who you should pick with that pick and who you should pick with this pick. At the end of this series, we're going to have a 2-round or a 3-round rookie mock draft where we go through once we've had a chance to watch all the players in this class, and we're going to get into that. So make sure you guys are staying tuned for all that content and upcoming prospect battles. We're going to get into some quarterbacks next week. So
100% stay tuned. Next week, we got quarterbacks and the tier 2 of running backs ready on dock for you guys. As always, peace out, y'all.